I'm making a few changes here at home. I do have to get rid of a couple cars to make room for one, so I'm going to break down the experience and reveal what I bought. It's almost the end of 2025, and I decided to make a small change to my car rotation. Since I've started the channel, I've always had my 911 and my M5 as the flagship vehicles. And then throughout the years, I've added different cars like the MX-6, the Xterra, my Celica, and then I got my second MX-6. But things have changed. So to get straight to the point, the two cars that are leaving are my Nissan Xterra and my Mazda MX-6. I'll start off with why I'm moving on with the Nissan Xterra. For the most part, that car has served its purpose for me. I'm able to use it as a daily driver, load things up, take it on trips, do some overlanding with my family. So it's got a lot of purpose in my household. But at the same time, my kids are getting older and bigger, and so I need a little bit more space. So with that in mind, I want to shift over to the MX-6. I bought this MX-6 earlier this year in January, but a few years ago, I actually had another MX-6, but now I want to change my focus. If you put the MX-6 and the Xterra next to each other, it doesn't seem like there's much in common, but the reason why I purchased both of those vehicles is to fill one void, and that's to have a JDM car. Initially, I bought the Xterra a couple years ago to serve two purposes: to daily drive the vehicle and do some adventures with my family. At the same time, I wanted to fix it up, and I did some shopping around for it, but I never felt that urge to really do some serious work on that car. So that's when I started thinking about getting a Mazda MX-6 again. Because I have some leftover parts for it, I thought it would be easy to start that project. But as the months go by and I've been investing time just working on getting it to run properly, my plans are starting to change. With my schedule with full-time work, family, and now that my kids are getting older, all the activities that they do after school have really been taking a big part of my schedule. So I don't have that much time or energy to be working on two different cars. I already have my hands full of my 911 and occasionally the M5, but again, like I mentioned, I want to fill that void for a JDM car. So what I'm going to do is going to get rid of the Xterra and the MX-6 and then just get one car so that I can fulfill the void of having a JDM car and yet still be able to have it as a daily driver and take my family out on adventures. With that said, I think you can put it together that I'm looking for an overland vehicle, and that's exactly what I got. Before I reveal what I purchased, I want to discuss some of the cars that I was considering, and then I'll do the full reveal. When I first started my shopping, I wanted to explore some different areas, and what I mean by that is getting a truck. In the past, I've owned two trucks already, and so I wanted to get my first full-size truck. And the first truck that I was looking at was the Nissan Titan, and I want to say maybe 2004 when they first came out. I saw those for the first time, and it really surprised me that Nissan would design a full-size truck. And then the second truck that I was thinking about is the Toyota Tundra. In the end, I decided not to go that route. As intriguing as it was, I wanted to get something that was covered in the back. I wanted to avoid having to get a camper for my truck. As versatile as it would be having a camper, being able to take it off and put it on, I just don't have the space to do that. So I moved on to shopping for SUVs. Speaking of Nissan and Toyota, that's exactly what I was narrowing down my search for as far as full-size SUVs. And I'm looking more towards the early 2000s models. So the two from Nissan and Toyota were the Sequoia and the Armada. I am a little familiar with the Armada, because my older brother has one, and when I went to visit him one time in the Pacific Northwest, he lent me it so I could drive up to Seattle. And my family was comfortable in the Armada. It was pretty good on gas mileage. And when I started shopping around for the Armada, I asked him about the reliability of it, and till this day he still has it and he loves it. So I decided to check the reviews on other owners that have that vehicle, and all the feedback that I've been getting was pretty positive. The next car that I was shopping was the rival at the time, which is the Toyota Sequoia. And that was an SUV back in the day that I remember seeing on the road and thinking, wow, if this is the successor of the Land Cruiser, this is a pretty good upgrade. The Sequoia is a little bit longer, a little bit higher, and there's a lot of space inside. So with the Armada and the Sequoia, those two were my top picks. And then I started to discover something from the Lexus side. I started shopping around for the LX470, which is like a variation of the Land Cruiser. And I was looking at some of the used vehicles in the marketplace, and although they are high mileage, they were always kept by the owners in pretty good condition. And as I was shopping around, they had one thing in common, and they were all either 200 plus or 300 plus thousand miles on them. And that's a testament of how durable and dependable that vehicle is. But at the same time, I want to start off a much lower mileage vehicle. So I continued my shopping for about a month, and I narrowed it down to the Lexus LX470, Toyota Sequoia, and the Nissan Armada. So what I'm going to do now is head over to my garage. I have it parked in front, so let's check it out. So you can tell it's none of the three cars that I mentioned earlier. What I'm going to do is, because the truck is so close to my garage, I want to be able to have you see everything. I'm going to go for a short drive just around the corner and talk a little bit more about my newest purchase. I'm just going to take it around the corner here, decide to start filming while I'm driving. You notice it's a much bigger vehicle than my Xterra or any of my cars at home. I got me an Infiniti QX56. So what I want to do now that we got a full view of my new car, let's do a tour. I'll start off with the interior. This is a one owner vehicle, and out of all the cars that I had on my list, this is the most lowest mileage of all of them. This just barely hit 100,000 miles. Look at the dash, how clean that is. And this is fully loaded. It has a Navi as well as a DVD screen, which I'll show you in a little bit. Everything in this car is in really good shape. There's no stains on the carpet, no rips or tears in the seats. Non-smoker car. And this is also one of the things I really wanted in an SUV is a sunroof. I'm thinking of probably putting either some storage up here or a pop-up tent. And I wanted to customize some way where I can have an entry from the sunroof. So this was a big plus to have that. Here's the back. It's just as clean as the front. Notice no rips or stains. Check out the chairs. And then this one here is for the monitor, so the kids can watch movies back here. And then there's also down here some cup holders. And then it also has some heated seats, so this truck has a full package. I did put these cardboards down here because I didn't want the chairs to leave an impression on my leather seats, so that's why they're there. And then back here, this seat goes down. Let me just shift this a little bit. So, and then this here extends out this way. It actually sits flat down here so that if we wanted to use this area here to sleep, you got that space. This is another 3-row seat. So this is actually an 8-seater. And if I flip this up here, this is where people can get to the back. One of the cool things I like about this vehicle is also the fact that this chair folds all the way down and we can use this as a table. We've actually used it already a few times. Let me go ahead and flip it down so you can see how it looks like. So this is how it looks like when I fold down the seat. It's flat. We've actually used this a few times already. It's a little bit dirty, but we've used this a few times and the kids love it. Here's the back. I do have my stroller here and some foldable chairs, but there's a lot of room back here. If you fold down those chairs, my kids can sleep in the back here with everything laid down. So there's a lot of space. There's a lot of cup holders here on both sides. And then underneath here, there's more storage. I put my picnic blanket down here. So there's a lot of space on the back. One of the things that I've used also is the hitch over here. So I have the rear carrier that sometimes I travel with. I use that as a base so that I could carry some stuff and also use it as a kitchen. So this has been helpful already. One of the things that are a big plus for me too is this window here actually folds up. So if I press the button to unlock it, it opens up just like that. Next, I'm going to show you the heart and soul of the car, which is the engine. It has a V8 motor and it was properly maintained by the previous owner. So it's a V8 5.6 liter engine, and I looked at the history and the records of this vehicle to make sure that it was always up to date on maintenance. If you notice, look how clean that is. Not a single leak. All the fluids have been checked, and I checked also the coolant, all the fluids, and they're all topped off. Now that I'm back in my car, I want to talk about why I chose this over the other options. Well, for the most part, this wasn't the best condition out of all the cars that were on my list, and the ones on my list were pretty clean. The fact that this is a one-owner vehicle and the mileage is really low, this was the best running vehicle. Although I checked the reviews on the Armada, which is the same chassis and engine, I also checked the reviews for this Infiniti, and I noticed a pattern with all the previous owners, and that they were mentioning that this truck is a tank. And it shows by the way I drive it, the way it feels when I hit bumps, the way I close the door. Everything about this SUV so far has been positive. Another thing that I really like is the space on this. If you compare this to the Sequoia or the Lexus, this one definitely has more space. And also the other ones have, I think, 7-seaters. This one is an 8-seater. Although I'm not really going to use the third row, I mainly got it just because I'm able to fold it down and get more space out of it. But if my parents are visiting from out of town, it's definitely going to be useful. Another thing that I really like about this truck is it has all the bells and whistles. I know the Nissan Armada is very similar, but Infiniti is the more luxury version of Nissan, just how like Lexus is the more luxury version of Toyota. So this wasn't really on my radar, but when I saw this car for sale, I started looking a lot more deeper into it, and I would start to like what I was finding about it. One of the things that really impressed me about this vehicle was how well maintained it was. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a one owner vehicle, and I got a printout of the Carfax, and throughout its whole life, it's always been to the dealership at least 3 times a year. It's always getting the regular service that was on schedule, and throughout its life, it hasn't broken down on the original owner. So just the regular maintenance things that were needed for this vehicle, and just the way it drives, it's so smooth. You could tell that the original owner did not abuse it. So now that you know what I upgraded with, what's next for it? Well, for the most part, I want to enjoy it with my family. We've already scheduled some trips with it. We started driving it around here in Southern California quite a bit already. But for the most part, I want to try to keep it OEM plus. So I'm not going to really go too all out on it. But one of the things I want to do is probably add some spacers on the wheels. The OEM factory wheels are nice, and I want to pretty much keep it until the tires wear out, and then I'll do some upgrades on it. But for now, I'll probably just have some spacers so I can pull it out a little bit and make it look a little bit more aggressive. And then I also want to put the visors on the windows. That way, when we're driving, especially in winter time, I could crack the window. I could crack the window without having all the air come through the car. Or even if it's raining or snowing, that will be a big help. So coming up on the next episode, I'm going to install those items on my new car. So stay tuned for that. That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you on the next one.
Wow.